Y'all love that shit in the NBA though. It'd be cool when the dudes do it, but y'all soft. Y'all are so soft. I don't care what nobody said though. You go for somebody's neck and don't even go for the ball. This ain't basketball no more. Y'all want to play football? Let's play football. Y'all, JC is taking care of. JC held her own for real. JC held her own. The fight was forced.
Okay, let's move on.
No, let's not. If somebody less than a minute to go, you taking a layup thinking sweet, and somebody come for your neck. The ball is extended here. Somebody come for your neck. What are we talking about? Just know y'all are delusional. Just know y'all are sick in the head.
Marina! How are you? Good to see you. You doing well? Can we get a picture?
There's a scrape across the face. That's what Clark didn't like. And then Mabrey came in with a bump.
The moment Marina Mabrey launched Caitlin Clark to the floor with a vicious blindside shove, she didn't just attack the league's biggest star, she exposed a broken system that's destroying the WNBA from within. What happened that night in Connecticut wasn't just another hard foul. It was a calculated assault that the referees completely botched, the league tried to cover up, and Marina Mabrey herself turned into a profitable social media flex.
Because karma has gotten back to a few people this week. Hasn't it? It sure has. Karma's a bald-headed.
The shove heard around the basketball world has become the perfect storm, showcasing everything wrong with women's professional basketball right now. The Sun versus Fever matchup was already heated, but nobody expected it to turn into complete chaos. 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrant calls later, one moment stood above all the madness. With Clark focused on the play, completely unaware of what was coming, Mabrey came charging from nowhere and body-checked the rookie sensation straight to the hardwood.
It absolutely should have been an ejection, and it should have been called in the moment. What's crazy is the announcer even said it during the while this was happening. He was like, oh, Marina's definitely getting ejected out of the game. And he didn't think twice about that. You know what's happening? The WNBA is getting a lot more attention. WNBA is not used to this. All these calls that they usually let slide in the WNBA, they can't let them slide no more because now they're going viral. I'm sure they've been letting this go for years, but nobody's been watching.
The impact was immediate and brutal. Clark hit the floor hard. The crowd erupted in fury, and everyone in the arena knew they just witnessed something way beyond normal basketball contact. This wasn't a basketball play gone wrong. It was a targeted hit designed to send a message. But here's where things get really twisted. The referees, who had front row seats to this assault, somehow decided it wasn't worth an ejection. They handed Mabrey a basic technical foul and let her keep playing like nothing happened. Meanwhile, the broadcasters were losing their minds, fans were screaming for justice, and Clark was picking herself up off the floor, wondering how someone could get away with such a blatant cheap shot.
Marina Mabrey shoves Caitlin Clark to the ground after she's slashed in the eye by one player, rushed by another. Like, I can clearly see why some of y'all teams in the WNBA are just not successful, bro. Like, y'all don't know how to act. We just gonna call it for what it is. Y'all don't know how to act. Like, there's basketball stuff, and then there's just completely playing dirty. RG3, you and your wife got about 30 seconds to respond. Because if you thought Angel Reese hated Caitlin Clark, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Because this is clearly they're doing all this. Like, hit her in the eye, bumped her, she tries to separate herself from y'all, you get rushed by another player, and then you get knocked to the ground by another. But you really believe Angel Reese hates her. There's playing basketball, and then there's just flat out just being a dirty player. Obviously, y'all can't do shit to stop her, so you have to do stuff like this. But I want to see that same outrage that y'all have when she clashes with the you-know-who's of the W to this. Because this is clearly unacceptable, and they clearly need to be docked and addressed for this type of behavior. Like, What do y'all think? Y'all think this is clean? Y'all think this is just basketball? Or do they need to be thrown out? Y'all comment down below.
The inconsistency became even more glaring when you looked at what happened to Sophie Cunningham just minutes later. She got ejected immediately for what looked like a standard hard foul, nothing close to the violence Mabrey had just unleashed on Clark. The message was crystal clear. Targeting the league's biggest star apparently comes with fewer consequences than a routine defensive play. Frame by frame, the footage tells a story that makes your blood boil. Clark is 3 feet away from the ball, completely focused on the action, when Mabrey decides to launch herself like a guided missile. There's no attempt to play the ball, no basketball move whatsoever, just pure intent to inflict damage. The distance between Clark and the ball makes it impossible to argue this was anything other than a deliberate attack. Mabrey's approach is what makes this so disturbing. She doesn't go for a steal, doesn't try to disrupt the play, she aims directly for Clark's face and body with maximum force. The rookie never saw it coming because she was actually playing basketball while Mabrey was playing something else entirely. The belly bump that followed was just salt in the wound. After launching Clark to the ground, Mabrey made sure to add insult to injury with additional contact, making it clear this wasn't accidental or heat of the moment. This was calculated intimidation designed to rattle the league's rising star. What happened next reveals everything broken about WNBA officiating. Instead of immediately ejecting Mabrey for what was obviously a flagrant 2 foul, the referees huddled up and somehow convinced themselves this was just a technical. The crowd was furious, the commentators were stunned, and everyone watching knew the refs had completely lost control of the situation. The double standard became impossible to ignore when Sophie Cunningham got tossed without hesitation for a play that didn't come remotely close to Mabrey's violence. Cunningham's foul was hard, but within the realm of basketball, a take foul designed to stop a fast break. Mabrey's attack was something you'd see in a street fight, not a professional basketball game. This inconsistency sent a dangerous message to every player on the court. The rules don't apply equally, and targeting superstars might actually be encouraged. If you can blindside the league's biggest draw and stay in the game, what's stopping other players from taking similar liberties? The psychological impact on Clark was obvious. Getting poked in the eye was bad enough, but having someone deliberately try to hurt you while the referees look the other way adds a whole different level of frustration. Her reaction of mild shove in response to being attacked somehow earned her a technical foul for unsportsmanlike conduct. Let that sink in. Clark gets assaulted, reacts like any human being would, and gets penalized for it. Meanwhile, her attacker gets to keep playing basketball like nothing happened. The victim gets punished, while the aggressor gets rewarded with continued playing time. But the real bombshell came after the game ended. The WNBA, clearly feeling the heat from the massive backlash, quietly upgraded Mabrey's technical foul to a flagrant 2 on their website. No press conference, no dramatic announcement, just a sneaky little update buried in the league's official records. This post-game revision exposed the league's complete lack of confidence in their own officiating crew. If a play is flagrant 2 worthy, it should be called that way in real time, not fixed hours later when social media explodes. The upgrade was basically the WNBA admitting their referees blew the call spectacularly. The timing of this correction was particularly telling. It came only after fans, media, and former players spent hours roasting the league for the obvious missed call. The message was clear. The WNBA only cares about getting calls right when public pressure forces their hand. Head referee Ashley Gloss tried to justify the original call by explaining that Mabrey's contact did not rise to the level of ejection and did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty. Less than 24 hours later, the league completely contradicted their own official, making Gloss look either incompetent or dishonest. This flip-flopping destroys credibility at every level. How can players trust the officiating when the league doesn't even back up their own referees? How can fans believe what they're seeing is being called fairly when rules apparently change based on Twitter reactions? The officiating crisis goes beyond just this one game. When referees are making split-second decisions under intense pressure, consistency becomes everything. Players need to know what's allowed and what isn't, fans need to trust that games are being called fairly, and the league needs officials who can handle the biggest moments. Instead, we got a masterclass in how not to manage a crisis. The referees missed an obvious call, the league tried to quietly fix it later, and everyone involved looked weak and reactive instead of authoritative and consistent. Marina Mabrey's response to the controversy was perhaps the most shocking part of this entire mess. Instead of showing any remorse or trying to downplay the incident, she doubled down with a viral TikTok that basically celebrated the chaos she'd created. Every time they comment, "I make dollars," she posted, turning the controversy into a personal branding opportunity. This wasn't an athlete apologizing for losing her cool. This was someone who clearly planned to profit from the negative attention. The audacity was breathtaking. After nearly taking out the league's biggest star with a cheap shot, Mabrey was essentially thanking her critics for boosting her social media engagement. She wasn't backing down, apologizing, or showing any sign that she understood the seriousness of her actions. This response revealed something disturbing about Mabrey's mindset. She wasn't viewing this as a basketball incident that got out of hand. She was treating it like a successful publicity stunt that increased her profile and probably her endorsement potential. The villain era embrace was calculated and deliberate. Instead of trying to rehabilitate her image, Mabrey was leaning into the controversy, knowing that negative attention still translates to views, follows, and ultimately money in today's social media landscape. But this wasn't Mabrey's first rodeo when it comes to controversial plays. Anyone who's followed her career knows she's built a reputation on aggressive, borderline dirty defense that often crosses the line from physical to dangerous. Her history with targeting star players is well documented. During her time with Dallas, Chicago, and now Connecticut, Mabrey has consistently been involved in incidents that go beyond normal basketball contact. She's developed a pattern of identifying the opposition's best player and making them uncomfortable through questionable tactics. The targeting of Clark fits perfectly into this pattern. Mabrey has made a career out of getting under the skin of opposing stars, using physical intimidation and borderline dirty play to disrupt their rhythm and confidence. Clark, as the league's most valuable rookie and biggest drawing card, was a natural target. What makes Mabrey's approach particularly problematic is the calculated nature of her actions. These aren't heat-of-the-moment reactions or accidental collisions. They're planned intimidation tactics designed to send a message to both the targeted player and the rest of the league. The crash-out artist label fits perfectly. Mabrey has turned controversy into an art form, knowing exactly how to push boundaries while maintaining plausible deniability. She's mastered the skill of making plays look questionable enough to avoid serious consequences while still achieving her goal of rattling opponents. Her teammates and coaches have historically supported this approach, viewing her as an enforcer who brings toughness and edge to their defensive schemes. But there's a difference between physical defense and targeted violence, and Mabrey has crossed that line repeatedly throughout her career. The broader implications of this incident extend far beyond one dirty play in one regular season game. The WNBA is at a critical juncture in its development, with rising stars like Clark bringing unprecedented attention and revenue to the league. When the league's biggest attraction gets targeted with cheap shots while referees look the other way, it sends a message that could seriously damage the WNBA's growth trajectory. Fans who tune in to watch Clark play basketball don't want to see her get assaulted by players who face no real consequences for their actions. The inconsistent officiating creates an environment where anything goes, as long as you're willing to deal with a possible fine or upgrade after the fact. This reactive approach to player safety puts everyone at risk, but especially the stars who draw the most attention and animosity. Clark's rookie season has been remarkable, but it's been marred by repeated incidents of opposing players taking liberties with her physical well-being. The league's failure to consistently protect its biggest investment suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of how to grow and maintain a successful professional sports product. The comparison to other professional leagues is stark. The NBA doesn't allow players to target LeBron James or Stephen Curry with impunity. The NFL doesn't let defenders take cheap shots at star quarterbacks without immediate and severe consequences. But somehow, the WNBA thinks it's acceptable to let players assault Caitlin Clark as long as they upgrade the foul later. This double standard is particularly frustrating given the league's public statements about protecting player safety and promoting competitive integrity. You can't claim to prioritize these values while simultaneously allowing your biggest stars to be targeted by players who know they can get away with it. The damage to the league's credibility is immediate and long-lasting. When fans see obvious fouls being missed or downgraded in real time, only to be corrected hours later when nobody's watching, they lose faith in the entire system. The perception becomes that outcomes are determined more by social media pressure than by actual officiating competence. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires the WNBA to prioritize consistency and player safety over damage control and reactive PR moves. If a play is flagrant too worthy, it should be called that way in the moment, not fixed later when the pressure becomes too intense to ignore. Real-time accountability means having referees who can make difficult calls under pressure and stick by them. It means having a league office that backs up their officials' decisions instead of undermining them with post-game revisions. Most importantly, it means creating an environment where star players can compete without fear of being targeted by opponents who know the consequences are minimal. The circuit breaker approach used in other sports makes perfect sense here. Cross the line with a dangerous play, and you're immediately ejected, no questions asked, no post-game reviews, no social media pressure needed. This creates clear boundaries that protect everyone while maintaining the physical nature of competitive basketball. Until the WNBA implements this kind of immediate accountability, we'll continue seeing incidents like the Mabrey-Clark situation. Players will keep testing boundaries, referees will keep making inconsistent calls, and the league will keep scrambling to control damage after the fact instead of preventing it from happening in the first place. The Marina Mabrey controversy represents everything wrong with the current state of WNBA officiating and player accountability. A calculated cheap shot went unpunished in real time, forcing the league into an embarrassing post-game correction that satisfied nobody and solved nothing. Mabrey's unapologetic response shows she understands exactly what she did and has no intention of changing her approach. Why would she? The system rewards her behavior with increased attention, social media engagement, and ultimately financial benefit. Until the consequences match the actions, players like Mabrey will continue pushing boundaries. The real victims here aren't just Clark and other targeted players, it's the entire league and its fans. When officiating becomes a reactionary exercise driven by social media outrage instead of consistent rule enforcement, everyone loses faith in the system. The WNBA stands at a crossroads. They can continue with the current approach of reactive damage control and inconsistent enforcement, watching their credibility erode with each controversial incident, or they can implement real-time accountability that protects players and maintains competitive integrity. The choice seems obvious, but the league's track record suggests they'll probably keep choosing the path of least resistance until the next controversy forces their hand. By then, it might be too late to repair the damage to their reputation and their stars' physical well-being. The question isn't whether incidents like this will happen again, it's whether the WNBA will finally decide to prevent them instead of just cleaning up the mess afterward. Based on their handling of the Mabrey situation, fans shouldn't hold their breath waiting for real change.